So I have personally seen two workflows here working for me. One definitely on the uh, very quick ideation and brainstorming, which you can do with ChatGPT itself. And based on what responses it is giving, you can go into multiple directions to kind of drill down into something. While you are able to validate it one based on your understanding, and then you can again go back to Google. So here, Google is also becoming a helper here to validate, because still we will trust Google more than ChatGPT. I mean, I can't blindly take whatever ChatGPT gives. Many times it has hallucinated so much, especially in generating code, which is something new, because I was trying to experiment with LLMs, and it was giving something of the air because it didn't have knowledge about it. It wasn't trained yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to be very careful with LLMs because by definition, they will hallucinate and there is no way around it.
Mm,
But at the same time, we need to understand what will it hallucinate more on,
mm,
what is my prompt, what data was it trained on,
mm.
and so on. So yeah, checking this on, like double checking the facts on Google is definitely something which is very important because Google is an indexing engine. It indexes
Correct.
websites out there. Similarly,
Mm.
it is definitely a great tool for brainstorming, maybe for suggesting names, taglines, maybe some directions. But I'm sure you've experienced that when you go deep, then you quickly hit, the ceiling
Right.
on certain topics where you would know more, or you would now know that this is just a machine and it's not
Yeah.
giving you
Yeah.
any additional information.
And
But
on the
definitely, it is a
yeah.
good starter as a brainstorming tool.
Definitely. And secondly, the second one, it really helps in picking up some quick learning. By say, it's like you're talking to somebody whom you can assume that okay, he's a more experienced person. Whether this model here has knowledge of entire GitHub and lot of things on internet. So knowledge wise, you can't beat. But yeah, how to extract that knowledge that you are using through your instructions, the way your prompts are flowing and the way you're creating it. So I think in the
Yeah.
end, the art is about how do you design these prompts. So is there a science of it, or do you think it is more experimentative? Are there some patterns coming out of it? Is there something which has worked for you? I mean, because otherwise people say, what's it to you learn to use ChatGPT? I'll talk and get something. So I don't know whether.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is true. You can talk
mm,
and see all this prompt engineering is, in my opinion, not something that we should invest too much of our time into.
mm,
Though the SQL example that I told you about, it is actually a paper by Alibaba, and
yeah.
it is all about prompt engineering, how to get
Mm,
correct SQL out, right?
mm,
We still use ChatGPT-4 API, GPT-4 APIs, but
mm,
it is about how to prompt it so that it gives me well-formed SQL. So it is important, but for a layman, we need to be complete in our question because
right.
we're talking to machine, so we have to give it
Mm,
context, we have to define it well.
right.
And some practical things that we do is, for example, instead of writing code first, we would first ask it to create a test case, and
Mm, mm,
then
mm,
we
mm,
would iterate on that test case. We will look at the code. So it's not that you can blindly take that code and just use it willy-nilly.
right. Right.
You
Right.
have to look at what it has done. All it is
Mm,
doing you is saving you the effort of typing that whole thing, making
mm,
the
mm,
syntax
mm,
right, making sure
mm,
that it compiles.
mm,
Then you look at the code and see, okay, it has missed out these and these cases.
right.
You augment that test function by adding those. Please
Mm,
add these conditions to my test code. Once you're happy with the test function, you can ask, create a function which passes this test code. And
mm,
if you're using the data interpreter functionality of ChatGPT, it will create code. Maybe it doesn't
yeah.
get it right at the first time. It'll try
Right.
to run it through the test case. It'll see what passed, what failed, and then it will iterate. It will say, sorry, I made a mistake, and then it'll go back and correct itself. So
Right.
these are the kind of loops that we've found to work for us.